What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? Well, it's crossover time with Locked on Padres to discuss. Is it fair to be mad at the LA Dodgers and Roki Sasaki, or does baseball need to step in and do something about it?
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Miller Thomas, multimedia journalist and graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millerthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. On today's show, it's crossover time with Javier Reyes of Locked on Padres to discuss the Dodgers, the evil empire, and if baseball needs to do something about it. So without further ado, to discuss his anger and his angst toward the evil foe in the NL West, we're bringing on Javier Reyes of Locked on Padres. Pew, pew, pew. How you doing today, sir?
Doing great. You know, right as you were loading that up, I was like, you know what? Yesterday I talked about the Dodgers thing. I predicted at the top of the show, promised that the comments will not feature anyone actually listening to what I have to say. And Miller, let me tell you, nobody listened to what I have to say. They did not see the nuance whatsoever. But you know what? Welcome to sports media, I guess, these days, right? But doing great, man. I think that I'll tell you one thing. We cannot say it's boring in terms of news. We have a lot to talk about, so I'm always excited to do.
At least for the NL West, it's not boring. I can't speak to other divisions. Like other divisions, like if you're in the NL Central, like is it that fun of a time? I don't know.
Which, by the way, is part of the problem, and the Dodgers are a byproduct of every other team being boring, and they're just like, cool, I guess we'll take the best players. Like, just not a great time to be a general baseball fan, I don't think, for other teams. And I just think it's just out of control right now what's going on. But we'll see, I guess, how things evolve over time. But the other crazy thing is, man, we still have free agents left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like some pretty decent ones. Yeah, there's still a lot of guys left. Like, we still got to find out where Alex Bregman's going. Pete Alonso, Jack Flaherty. Like, yeah, we've lost the biggest ones from Roki to Soto, obviously. And Corbin Burns, your boy. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, still so much to talk about. And
well, yeah,
man, I mean, NL West, dude, just the most, when it comes to signings, when it comes to an organization changing its philosophy like the Padres, the big blockbuster trades and signings of both Padres and especially Dodgers, and then the underdog kind of like, hey, remember us vibes of the Dbacks, frankly, like for multiple seasons now. Like last year, I know they didn't make the playoffs, but they were still really good last year. The Giants randomly winning 107 games, and then the Rockies being dumb. But it's just, there's a lot to talk about. Like, our division's kind of lit, dude. I love it.
Yeah, and if we take a look at the recent trends, we could probably guess where some of those free agents that are still out there are going to go, because right now it seems like the LA Dodgers are just mopping up all these free agents, and not just Roki Sasaki. They've also signed the top closer on the market in Tanner Scott. It seems like they're in serious talks to get Kirby Yates as well. Javi, we were talking a little bit before you hopped on the mic today. It seems like you're really feeling like this anger and vitriol right now toward the Dodgers. Some people are saying, hey, it's mostly Dodgers fans, and they're saying, hey, don't be mad at the Dodgers. Look within, self-reflect, and tell your owners to go out there and spend more money. So where do you land on this whole debate, Javi? Does baseball need to step in? Is it an MLB problem? Is it just the Dodgers? They're just the best organization. They're just smarter than everyone else. Or is it some of these small market teams that need to, step up to the plate a little bit more? Where are you landing in all this?
I genuinely believe that there's a lot of nuance. There's some aspects of this which are simple. Simple being, no, it's not fun when one team gets everybody.
That's true.
But the complicated factor is, who am I more mad at, right? Like, and I think that hating the Dodgers, that to me goes hand in hand with hating the league, right? Like, my problem is that the league created you, almost in the hit movie Iron Man 3, right? If those remember, he says we create our own demons at the very beginning of the movie.
Iron Man 3, that one.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why that was the first one. I probably saw like a comic or something the other day, but what happens is they ignore things, and then guess what happens? You create the villain, I think. And that's the point. You know what I mean? Emperor Palpatine only rose because the Jedi were completely ignorant and just stood by as he You think that guy who's accruing more and more executive power for himself might be doing something bad? Nah, we're good, man. This clone army that we don't know where it came from. Nah, let's just run with it, man. Like, I think that the league is the bigger people at fault. I think my thing with Dodgers is just like the fan base. And granted, a lot of that is
Yeah.
online and anecdotal, but it's just like I have 63 comments on my YouTube video that I posted. Whenever people are seeing this, I posted on Tuesday. And it's just like, well, why is it okay with the Padres but the Dodgers don't? Well, because the Padres have never won. So guess what? It's a little bit more fun. You know what I mean? Like more fun when Joe Burrow almost makes a comeback in the Super Bowl versus when Tom Brady does. You know why? Because Tom Brady's won 6 times already. So that's kind of how I view it. And I think that the Padres are doing what Dodgers fans say every other team should do, which is spend. And they showed you that they could, which is why I think it is better for the sport when the Padres do it as opposed to Dodgers, because that shows growth. And it shows that like other teams are doing what you guys claim that they need to do. But at the same time, it's complicated. No, I don't think that it's a salary cap is necessarily a problem. Would I hate that? No, but I think the bigger thing is salary floor. I think the bigger thing is the fact that Major League Baseball, from commissioners to commissioner to C-League to Manfred to whoever, have not been able to get a bunch of owners together that actually care about the sport. You've got some that do. Clearly, the Dodgers owner does, right? Peter Seidler, RIP, definitely cared about baseball. Guess what? There's not too many out there that do. I mean, what's his face? Middleton of the Phillies clearly likes it, but there's a lot of people out there that either view this just as a business or they just actively are like greedy. The Tom Ricketts is out here of the Chicago Cubs talking about we barely make even. What?
Yeah, which is
we
crazy.
barely break it. You were $500 million in revenue. What are you spending? $300 million on a popcorn machine? Like, it doesn't make sense. You guys could definitely overpay. Yeah, guess what? Maybe you overpay for talent sometimes. It's okay. And go get yourself Tanner Scott. I think that the Dodgers do have some stuff that nobody could replicate. No, not everybody can. I think deferrals are complicated. I'm not focusing on that. I don't think it's necessarily that deferrals are a problem. I think that a lot of teams have done it, maybe not as much as them. No, not every team can do Shohei for $700 million, Mookie Betts for $365, Freddie Freeman for $300, whatever it is, and do Roki for, by winning out the international lottery for him, or whatever you want to call it. And then also signing Tanner Scott and Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow and all these guys. But everyone could get Tanner Scott, dude. You're telling me that everyone can't get Tanner Scott? Yes, they could. I think everyone could get Pete Alonso and Anthony Santander. And yeah, not all of those players will work, right? Look at the Padres, right? They spent a lot of money on Hosmer, it didn't work. Spent a lot of money on Bogarts, didn't work. But spending matters the most. You know what I mean? Like, you really, really do need to do that. And you can recover from spending too. I mean, Nick Castellanos isn't very good. Phillies are like, we don't care. We have all these other guys and we're going to keep going for it. So I think that the bigger blame for what the problem is the league. My rage towards who annoys me more are Dodger fans, because I really do think these things go hand in hand. And like, I don't think Mariners fans are like, I hate the Dodgers, love my ownership. You know what I mean? No, I think I think it's not mutually exclusive. And I'm really ranting right now, but that's just the TLDR of what I said on my podcast, I think.
No, all that's fair. I think when you definitely look at this situation, obviously it's easy to be mad at the Dodgers and the organization, because whenever you see one group dominating that they are in terms of scooping up all the talent, and now it just feels like there's this disparity. I think that's like a lot where there's anger is kind of like misdirected, because I don't think we're actually like mad, because I see so many like lazy takes right now saying like this is why baseball is ruined. Like when you compare baseball to other sports, they have caps and this is why they're better. I think we see a lot of lazy takes where people are basically saying we don't have parity in baseball, which is like the craziest thing, because you compare baseball to the NBA, you compare it to the NFL, where you see it was Warriors and LeBron every single season. It's now Chiefs and it was Tom Brady every single year. Baseball actually has parity. Maybe in the regular season, the NL West, yes, the Dodgers win that division specifically every year. But in terms of the actual sport, the championships, the end results, there is a lot of parity in Major League Baseball. So I don't think we're actually mad at it from that standpoint. I think we're actually mad at is the talent disparity, because I do think when you look at it across Major League Baseball, a lot of the most recognizable faces and stars are on the big market teams. Now, I'm not saying if you're a big market with those players, that's going to automatically mean you win games, maybe a better position, because I think we've seen, right, teams like the Rays, the Cleveland Guardians, right? We see these money ball franchises not spend a lot of money and still produce really good results. I think the biggest problem baseball has is a talent disparity. I think there's just too many recognizable faces, marketable stars on the bigger market teams, and we need to maybe spread that out more. I don't think there's a problem in terms of like the end results, who's winning the World Series every single year, because obviously this past year was an outlier, Dodgers, Yankees. Most seasons it's not like that. So I think when we're looking at this, most people aren't actually mad that baseball's broken, free agency. I think we're actually mad. It just seems like all the best players every offseason just go to the big market teams, and it feels like the small market teams don't really have a chance. And now maybe that's a product of some of those owners, like you just discussed, not spending or opening up their wallet. Like some of that also has to be addressed. And so, like you said, there's a lot of nuance in this, but I think a lot of the anger is kind of misdirected. Like it's definitely okay to be mad at the Dodgers, but like you said, MLB needs to put better rules in place. Like I'm on the deferrals. Like it's okay to defer one contract, has been going on forever. But when you have a $2 billion payroll like 15 years from now because of all the deferrals, I think that's too much. I don't know how you can put rules in place, but maybe you shouldn't get like the top international player every single year from Japan. Like maybe you could put something to like curtail that.
Hey, careful, man. The unbiased Dodgers fans are going to kill you for that. You know what I mean? Be careful.
So I definitely agree. Like owners around Major League Baseball probably need to open up their wallet a little bit more. But Dodgers fans, let's also not overlook the fact they have like one of the best broadcasting deals in the sport. You're in LA, you're a big market team. Like also being a franchise that's been around for over 100+ years, you can't overlook how much that matters. I'm 27 years old. I was born the same year the Dbacks were concepted. Think about how many fans are around my age that are just now, having second generation, third generation Dbacks fans, right? Like Dodgers fans, like abuelas and great abuelas and grandmas and grandparents have been watching that for hundreds of years. You have this indoctrinated thing when it comes to that fan base. And so I that's also a long rant as to why we don't see, some other teams probably not spend as much. But at the end of the day, it's okay to be mad at the Dodgers, but let's also look outwardly towards some of the nuances that's wrong with Major League Baseball.
And I do think a good amount of teams do. I mean, I've talked about how much I can't stand the Moneyball effect, right? Like I think a lot of people think that it works for building the team. It doesn't work for winning though the whole way. Like it's important, but I think I think the idea I just had was like, I think there isn't a parity in the technical, like who can win. Like we haven't had a repeat champion since 1999. Like that can absolutely happen. Sure, there's not as much parity in just who will just genuinely be competitive sometimes. Like Yankees will always be there. Dodgers will always be there. Braves, although the Braves are a little bit smarter, but you get my point. I do think that there is an interest parity where it's like, you can't tell me it doesn't matter and it is their fault. You can't tell me it doesn't matter that one team is like, please, Donovan Solano, save the Mariners offense. While the other team's like, let's just get Roki for fun. You can't, generating interest and just having fun. Ben Kaspick, our mutual friend, talked about how he always used to think like winning is all that matters. And he said he kind of changed his mind because he's like, I watched this Phillies team. And you see this fan base, and you see when you get big name players and stars, the excitement is just there more, right? Like you can just see the energy when you watch them play. And I'm not saying the Guardians type of teams don't, but there is something to that. There's something about a league that tells so many teams and their fan bases, better luck next year and enjoy an off season of New York, LA, just getting every fun player that you saw this year. I just don't think that that's very cool. While as opposed to the NFL and the NBA, different leagues, different constructs, different logistics, but those leagues, you just have hope every year. I feel like in football, there's more excitement in the off seasons. Everyone's, who we're going to get in the draft. You know what I mean? NBA. Well, we tanked this year. We might get an awesome player at number 2 or number 3 or whatever. I just feel like it's more possible in those leagues, and that bad ownership affects the team more in baseball than bad ownership does in other sports, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it would also be nice if the players themselves were like, "Hey, let me not be, I'm Blake Snell. Let me not go join the Dodgers or like the number 4 starter." It'd be
Yeah.
nice if I chose somewhere else. Like a lot of those players that end up going to the Dodgers who are like star players are either, turning down money that's equal from other franchises or sometimes even turning down more money from other teams just so they could play with an already loaded lineup or rotations. Like how about have some competitive spirit if you're a player, because I know we were talking a little bit before the mic. We could lead this into segment number 2, but I want to ask you, are you mad at Roki Sasaki for choosing the LA Dodgers and putting us through that whole fiasco as a Padres fan? We'll discuss that in segment number 2. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. FanDuel is the app that is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. My favorite thing to do on FanDuel is the same game parlay. Whenever the Suns are playing, give me KD over on 25 points, give me Booker over on 25, and give me the Suns money line. When it hits, which is not very often, it brings a big smile to my face. If you want a big smile on your face, just visit fanduel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks, Locked On Padres crossover. We're talking a little bit before we hopped on the mics, talking about Roki Sasaki to the Dodgers. I know you feel a certain type of way right now towards Roki. Are you feeling like he's, Dalton Feely, great friend of the pod who loves to follow the show? He had that little tweet calling, Roki the KD of the MLB now, as he, kind of put us through the ringer a little bit, ended up joining the most vaulted rotation maybe in MLB history, but I'm taking the other side of that argument. But let's hear from you first, Javi. Why is Roki the KD of the MLB?
I think the KD part is because, unlike the other free agents, there wasn't, because of his amateur status, he's 23, there wasn't the prerequisite of money as the barrier, right? Unlike a Yamamoto, where it's like, yeah, I mean, they offered him the most money. I'd freaking take 300 million or whatever he got paid too. Like, you had the chance. And I think that this has been my conspiracy. I'll try to sum it up really quickly. And I'm not blaming the Dodgers, because frankly, I think that the Padres, if true, I think the Padres clearly and other teams might have as well, like, done some tampering and stuff. I think it's the way that, whether it be the teams, whether it be media, whether it be Roki himself through media and all that stuff, I feel like everybody was led along. And I think that when you get all these reports about he likes small markets, he is super competitive, and he doesn't want players to attend the meeting. And what do we get? Including Padres, by the way. We get a video of the Padres. He's throwing a bullpen session. Manny Machado's there. And then Dodgers. I think my friend, a fan side, Adam Weinrib, had like a really good post where he was like, look, the Dodgers absolutely should be doing this. Like, they should be getting the players. But it's also like this this idea that like he really connected with Yamamoto over the last 24 hours. Like, what do you think, we're stupid? Like, they definitely talked to him beforehand. And I think that's why people are bothered by this. I told you before we started recording, I said this on my show too. It's Heyman tweets, Blue Jays, real shot. 10 minutes later, signs with the Dodgers. Me, from Bob Nightingale's posts to my own sources, they're like, yeah, it looks like it really might be Padres. Like, trusted people that I know within baseball space and the organization, etc. So you have that. Why are you giving a meeting to the White Sox? All of these things feel very, Charlie Day, pin to pin connection, feel a little bit like you were just trying to put on a show that you didn't decide months ago, because it might just look really bad if the one time a free agent, prospect, whatever you want to call it, that it wasn't money, that he immediately chose Dodgers, which I get. I think this was like a Miami Heat thing. I think it was like, I want to go play with Ohtani and Yamamoto. I literally just played with them with Team Japan, and we won the World Baseball Classic. Like, I can only imagine that experience was great. But this idea that, like, oh no, man, he just went to the Dodgers and then it clicked in 18 hours. No, it didn't. I think that, at least to me, I think that's why he's being called a little bit like the KD, and I think that's why this one has annoyed people more than ever.
I mean, obviously he had to talk to Ohtani Yamamoto. I mean, they were probably recruiting him as soon as they got to LA. Like, Roki, you're going to be here a year from now. Like, it's going to be great when we create the big three in LA. Like, obviously they've been friends. They played on teams together. Like, it's not a shock at all because that's what goes on across sports, right? Walker Buehler has talked about how he's recruiting Alex Bregman to come to the Boston Red Sox, right? Like, it happens across sports. Like, if you're a friend if you're on a team and your friend's a free agent, like, you're going to want to try to get him to your team. So that's why I push back a little bit. And also, KD was beaten by the Warriors and then joined the team. Roki was across overseas doing
that's the other thing. Like, you brought it up. Like, that's an important thing to note, man. Like, you're coming to a new country. Like, you want to be with as many people that are like you and understand your language in full ways, understand your culture and all that. Like, it totally makes sense. I think it's the way people were led along. If this happens right when the window was open, I think that it's not as much, but it's just like, it's down to Giants, Blue Jays and Padres and Dbacks or whoever were the last teams. Oh, now it's just Padres, Blue Jays. It's like, no, it wasn't, dude. You definitely made your decision, but you have to, like, not make it obvious, I think. You can't have Magic Johnson go on Jimmy Kimmel and just tamper with Paul George live on TV. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want to have a moment like that. That's what I think it was. Also, weird that MLB took a day and a half to be like, yep, no tampering. What investigation in any sport ever just takes a day and a half? I don't care if it was just who appeared at, like, a game, you know what I mean, or whatever, or of the fan altercation in the World Series between Mookie and those fans. Like, no league has ever solved an investigation in a day and a half. Like, that's crazy.
It was almost like the reverse Rooney Rule. He was like, I just got to interview with these teams just to make sure I get it done and cross it off my list. So I get it. Like, Roki had to do it just so it was like from the
reverse Rooney Rule is great. Yeah.
But it's like we knew where he was going. Like, if it wasn't going to be the Dodgers, going to be the Padres. Probably most likely, but I never took Toronto as, like, a realistic contender for whatever reason. It's like, is he really gonna go to Canada instead of playing in America? I don't know. I didn't think that was gonna be possible. So Roki to the Dodgers. I also think the fact that he's, like, the 6th number 1 starter in that rotation also makes it feel a little bit more Kevin Durant-ish, even though I like to push back against that. But after seeing Roki to the Dodgers, like, how do you feel about the Padres in the NOS? Obviously, we're still waiting for them to make a move here. In segment number 3, we'll discuss some free agents. But, like, even after all the moves that the Dodgers have done this offseason, baseball is still such a high-variance sport where anything can happen. So is it just Dodgers versus the field, or how good do you still feel about your team in a potential playoff series?
I think it's probably a little bit Dodgers versus the field at this point. But in terms of the NL West, I still think, like, Atlanta was okay last year. And it required, like, 9 of their players underperforming. You know what I mean? Like, that's a really good team. Yeah. Like, anything can happen in a playoff series. I think that the cope, like, for both of us, is that the Dodgers were already going to be the division favorite. Yeah. Like, this is a team that had a lot of injuries, from Glasnow to Buehler to Bobby Miller to whoever. And they lost Mookie Betts for a little bit. They lost Freddie Freeman for a bit. So, yeah, them adding more isn't great. But it's also true that it's, like, the bigger issue for the Padres has also been just, like, they have ownership strife, right? And just one more time at the Dodgers fans that are, like, dunking on the Padres, it's just so, like, low. I use the comparison. It's like Tony Stark making fun of Spider-Man and saying, I'm wealthier than you. It's like, yeah, like, Spider-Man's congrats. You know what I mean? It's like, congrats, like, really punching down on it. Like, how about you guys go compete and brag to the other teams and the other fan bases instead of us? I don't know, the other ones that actually have a lot of money. So I think that with this, though, I just think this is going to be a division that's fighting for the wild card spots. And it was the same thing that happened last year, right? So I don't really know what's going to happen in terms of the rest of the league, and in terms of teams like the Reds and the Cubs. The Cubs made moves this offseason. Maybe not as many as they should have, but they made some moves this offseason. So I don't think it changes necessarily the route that both of our teams had too much, only because the wild card was already, I think, what we were hoping for. And I think that, frankly, the best time for the Padres to have won the division was last year, right? With the injuries to them. But unfortunately, the Padres were a second half team. They just did not put it together in the first half. Then they were, in my opinion, I genuinely think the best team in baseball in the second half last year, just all across the board in terms of as an overall team, defensively, bullpen, starting pitching, and they did blow it, right, like in the postseason. But I don't know, man. I mean, the NL West is just like, I think we both can agree. Can other divisions try? That would be great. Can other teams, I don't know, Central, both Centrals? Do you got Guardians? You were in the ALCS. Do you want to like do more than just 2 years, 30 billion for Shane Bieber? Like, just an idea. Maybe you could do that. But what do I know?
And for the first time when we hit our roundtable, I might be like pro Giants, actually. I kind of like the way that their team is trending right now. They are still missing like one of those recognizable, star players in like their lineup or whatever. But I look at their rotation right now. Webb, full season Robbie Ray, picked up a little old Verlander, Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks is not a bad rotation. You had Tyler Fitzgerald last year. Jung Ho Lee is going to be a big X factor with the Willie Adames and the Matt Chapman. Like, they got a little thing cooking over there in San Fran. Do I think they're going to win the NL West or be like a real World Series contender? Probably not. But is that a team that could fight for a wild card spot potentially, especially if they make another couple moves this offseason? Yeah, maybe. So I think right now when we look at the NL West, obviously the Dodgers are the cream of the crop. I mean, they win the division every single year. Like, that's their thing. That's what they like to do. They're going to do it again in 2025. They're going to do it again for the next 15 years, probably. Once we get to the playoffs, anything is possible, especially if you're like in the NLDS and just a 5-game series. It's not that hard for Ohtani or Mookie Betts to go hitless for 3 games. And then you just need one of your starters to have a bad game. Then, whoa, all of a sudden it's the Dodgers on the back heels. So in baseball, in a sport where it's such high variance, it's not like basketball where it feels like the best talent always wins out. Anything could truly happen. That's why we love MLB playoffs, because it just bananas every single season. So I think especially our two teams you look at our front offices, super aggressive. We know after seeing Roki, Tanner, Kirby Yates, like our teams are not going to just sit there and be like, oh, look at the Dodgers. Let's see what else they do this offseason. Like, we know AJ Preller and Mike Hazen are going to get on the phones and make some moves the rest of this offseason. So that's what I want to discuss in segment number 3. Who are still some free agents out there that if your team added them, you would feel good about going against the Dodgers in a potential playoff series in 2025. And if you're looking to buy tickets to an upcoming sport or an event, then the best place to do that, of course, is going to be GameTime, because GameTime is the best place for last-minute deals on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They have this feature called all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature on, it shows you your total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You could get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. They also have the lowest price guarantee, or GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. All right, back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks, Locked On Padres crossover. We know the Dodgers have been making some moves this offseason. The D-backs have also been making some moves, of course, getting Corbin Burns, Josh Naylor. Still have some holes, still looking for a right-handed bat. Still want to add another reliever or two. Really hope Kirby Yates isn't signed with the Dodgers, because that was a big D-backs target this offseason. But who are some Padres targets, Javi, where if your team signed them, you would still feel good about your team next season, and especially in a potential series against the Dodgers?
Dude, look, all I know is that it's dark out here for the Padres, because this ownership nightmare lawsuit thing, everybody feel free to sub. I've talked about it a bunch, but it's just the pattern of what's going on. I mean, Millard, like today there was like a rubric. There was a I forgot which radio show it was. I'm blanking on it. I didn't have time today to look at it in specific. Was like, there's some radio show in San Diego that Rob and Matt Seidler, who are the current control people, not Shield Seidler, who placed that lawsuit, that they went into one of the radio stations and were like, if you take Shield's side, we'll remove the team rights from you. Like basically doing some like Goodfellas threat against the radio. I'm like, what is going on here? So again, that is an alleged thing. I don't know if that's true, but like, just to give you an idea of like, it's crazy out here, but the pattern does match up. I'll say that much in terms of after Peter Seidler's passing, they basically haven't made a move for a player in terms of salary at either free agency ever since then, right? The biggest move they've made was actually trading away one of their best players once, so it ended up working really well. But it is a little bit weird. You reset, luxury tax threshold, but hey, part of it is also, some of the contracts they spent. Maybe you shouldn't have extended Jake Cronenworth for no reason. Maybe you don't panic and sign Xander Bogaerts for 11 years or whatever. Like, it is a little bit on them too, but it's just, I think we're seeing this ownership thing already is having an impact. I mean, this is a team that was in the NLDS and was a stone's throw away from beating the Dodgers, and they signed Martin Maldonado, right? Like, that's the biggest thing that this team has done. And I understand that they needed a backup catcher behind Campusano, who's questionable at the very minimum, right? But Martin Maldonado was a negative 1.5 WAR player last year. Like, that's all the Padres have done, and that's crazy, right? There's hope that Jurickson Profar can be brought back. That's our boy, and no team has signed him. There's no rumors. Jurickson, as you always like saying. Maybe he comes back. Maybe his market isn't as big as he thought. Wouldn't it be the first time? Also, when he tried leaving the Padres, the market was not great. And then he signed really late with the Rockies. So maybe that's a player. Ha-Seong Kim, it's possible. And I'm going to tell you why, because the rumors are that he really is hurt and he's going to miss opening day. Like, he might be out for a month or two. Yeah. So maybe you get him. Michael Conforto was supposed to get. I love mentioning Michael Conforto so much. My like ride or die truther, like dying on the hill player signed with the Dodgers. He's going to be awesome this year, by the way. Yeah. Everyone draft Michael Conforto as a late rounder in fantasy. I promise you, he's going to be sick, or at least really good. I think that Ha-Seong Kim, maybe you get him like on a 1-year prove it deal, 2 years, one of them a player option. It's not impossible, but it's not looking great, man. I mean, you're basically just hoping that we get to a point where these players have nowhere else to go. Teams are being too cheap, and the Padres say, okay, we could give this amount, but it's going to be hard. I think that for right now, the biggest moves might be trades, right? But I don't know what trades they have to make outside Robert Suarez and Luis Arraez. And the latest signals have been that they're not trading Arraez. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, is it just because that their owner died that we're not seeing them be as aggressive when it comes to spending money, or is it just because they spent like all the money when he was still alive? Because I just think it's like something funny to track, because like the D-backs owner, he's 85 now, and he talks like, listen, I'm getting close to that sunset. Like, I want the organization to win. It's like, of course, if Corbin Burns is out there saying, I'll come to your organization, I'm going to spend whatever. So I wonder if Peter Seidler was like, maybe he saw like, it sounds so morbid, but like the writing on the wall a little bit. And he was like, you know what? Yeah. I've been the owner for a while. Let me get aggressive right now, late in life, and spend as much as possible before, my time comes, and see if I could build a winner.
So I will say, and this has been one of the sad things, and this was actually a little bit mentioned in the lawsuit, by the way. And I think it was mentioned outside the lawsuit, like when he first passed, that this was actually like complicated. Like at age 63, like he wasn't expected to go, from what I've been reading. Like, it actually, there was complications. Him and Sheil were actually, according to what has been alleged and was mentioned in some reports, that they wanted to try and go for a third child. And so that tells me, no, like this was a little bit out of nowhere. And when you look at just the Padres ownership lately, it's just not going to any games, not going on any shows or anything like that. That feels a lot of removed. It reminds me a little bit of the Eric Hosmer days, frankly. So it's not great. It's not great. Again, these are all alleged. Sheil could be the villain in all this, for all I know. Like, more than enough reason to think that, believe me. It's rich people fighting as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know, man. It's just, I can't get past the fact that this guy was all in on bringing the Padres a championship. And as soon as he passed, they have done nothing except trade away and go, not just bargain bin, but like extreme bargain bin. Like, you guys can't do 2 years, 17 for Kyle Higashioka. Like, there's just a lot of stuff where I'm like, it follows the pattern. Here's how I would say it. Rob and Matt, if you're trying to prove that the allegations of we're just trying to sell this team at below market value to ourselves and then relocate and just be like the Cubs owner, Ricketts, you have not done a good job at making us think you aren't doing that, at least so far. Things can change tomorrow, right? Like, I want 2 years, $20 million for Ha-Seong Kim with a player option, whatever. That's way too low, but you get my point. It's tough, man. I mean, I think bringing Profar back would be awesome. And I think getting rid of a little bit of salary would be awesome too. But part of this is their own doing, right? Like I think the Cronenworth and Bogarts thing, you take that away, where are they? If the Padres do what I said, which was let Manny Machado maybe test out free agency, and maybe instead you try and go for Matt Chapman when that option comes in. Matt Chapman's like a really good player. Like Matt Chapman's really good. You save a bunch of time and years on that. Maybe you don't do the Bogarts thing. It feels like they did get a little bit irresponsible, but then again, it's all hearsay. We don't know exactly how it's gone, but I am worried, Millard. It just feels like every other team has done well. And don't get me wrong, I think that the Padres still have one of the best players in the entire division still, in Fernando Tatis Jr. I think they have one of the best young players in the entire division, in Jackson Merrill, who might be even better next year. But I mean, I'm looking at this D-backs team. You got Jake McCarthy as a fourth outfielder. You know what I'm saying? Like that speaks to depth. And this is a team that, in my opinion, a little tiny bit 2023 Padres, where it was like awesome offense, just couldn't get it done in some respects, weren't as clutch. But Corbin Carroll, I think that dude had a mean sophomore slump, but he'll be back. And then you add Burns, you still have Gowan, you'll get Merrill Kelly back. I kind of like Eduardo Rodriguez and Jordan Montgomery. Like, I just think that those guys can have bounce backs. Like, there's nowhere to go but up, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you maybe make a couple of improvements to the bullpen, but you got Josh Naylor, make up for the loss of Christian Walker. Eugenio Suarez, he at least can, dig it. Perdomo's okay. Maybe Jordan Lawler becomes something.
We'll see.
I just like the depth here, man. I think that there's some really good stuff here. And I wouldn't be surprised if they made maybe one more move, but we'll see. It doesn't usually bode well for the team that just stayed. Unless the team that stayed pat, it's only because they had a crazy farm system, like the Orioles, for example. Like, it's not looking great, man. It's not looking great.
But the Orioles are kind of like the worst example where you should do, right? Like, you have like this young core, and now it's let's just let Corbin Burns and the Jack Flaherty's just walk and like get nothing for him. So
that's the problem. It's not just the Dodgers, guys. This is the problem. Is the Orioles are like, we have a super team, and we got a new owner, and we're still not spending. Like, what are you doing? You're just letting it. You're not going to win a World Series with Grayson Rodriguez and then Dean Kramer as your second pitcher. Like, I'm sorry, it's not happening. So I feel for the O's, man. It's like they were teased. They They got a new owner. They're like, yes, we might do what the Padres did. No, we're just gonna sign. Well, who did they? I don't even know who they signed.
Charlie Morton.
That's who it was. Yeah. I mean, come on, man.
And they just lost Anthony Santander to the Toronto Blue Jays or whatever. So tough days for the Baltimore Orioles. So yes, it's okay to be mad at the Dodgers for signing everyone, but one of the reasons they signed everyone is because these other teams, some of them at least, refuse to spend money on their own players, but not the D-backs and Padres. We see our front offices, they're not afraid to get aggressive, and we'll see what moves they make the rest of this offseason, because D-backs still out there could use maybe a little Grichuk, maybe a little JD Martinez. Still would love like a David Robertson or something like that. So still be on the lookout for the D-backs to still make a couple more moves before this offseason ends.
Yo, real quick, JD Martinez, I totally forgot about that. That might be the option for the Pods at DH. Yeah. Okay, so that's the one. I forgot about JD Martinez. Past his prime, name value might be washed, but I mean, that's all we can do right now. It's not good, man. It's really bad.
There's still some decent guys, especially if you look at like the bottom of the free agent list. I like to go on like NBC. They have like the top 100 guys ranked. If you go near the bottom, there's some interesting like cheap guys they could still get out there, like the Randall Grichuks, who I would love to bring back, the JD Martinez's as well. Still got guys like Spencer Turnbull out there as well. I guess not Yimi Garcia. He was signed. How about like a Jose Iglesias? He's quietly, Jose has like hit the last like 3-4 years, and he was a guy that's never been considered an offensive player. But I'd like went one day, looked at his baseball reference, I was like, Jose actually is like a career 290 hitter with like a near 800 OPS. Like, it's actually insane numbers.
I mean, his weight on base and expected isn't great, but I mean, who am I to say no to? Forget baseball player, a hit maker, songwriter, superstar, and a dead beat that should never say more life. No, like, I mean,
the Jello of baseball.
Yeah, like, why not? I mean, I don't know, man. There's still some fun players out there. It's just, it was a tough blow. These were some body blows I think we both suffered this weekend. Like, literally, how many times have you and I both sat there and been like, anyone but Dodgers, and it's only worked like once.
Every time it's the Dodgers.
It worked like with Juan Soto, and that was it. That was the only one who reportedly they talked to before he signed, obviously, with the Mets. Like it's just not great, man. Oh my god.
That's because Soto won that money up front.
Padres are finishing fourth. The Pods are finishing fourth. Oh my god.
The round table is gonna be a good time. I actually don't want to go to that round table. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be interesting.
Well, careful. I'm getting attacked on Twitter, and everyone says I don't go on Locked On Dodgers because I'm scared. And I'm
really?
Like, buddy, I haven't been on Locked On Giants or Rockies in like 6 months. Like, what about them, you guys? This is what I'm talking about. It's just, I don't know. That's gonna be really fun, but I don't know. The Dodger fans need to just calm down a little bit. There's a reason people don't like you guys. It's kind of boring to brag that the reason you're doing well is that other teams don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Our team just develops better, and we just care about winning more than anyone else. No other organization cares about good players. We're the only one. Yeah, it gets tired. It's like, just be like realistic and honest about your situation. Like, yes, the Dodgers do spend more. They are very committed to winning, but also they have more resources that they could put onto their team. It's like,
I would be
true.
I would be such a cooler Dodger fan than some Dodger fans out there.
Cool.
My multiverse variant of being a Dodger fan is me laughing and not making fun of anyone. I'm just being like, yeah, this league is ridiculous. It's so dumb, but I'm happy. And then I just call it a day, and then I watch a game and have a good time.
Hey, man, where can the listeners find you online?
Oh, yeah, that's right. At Javipeno, JAVIIPENO on Twitter /X or Blue Sky. And then also go check out Just Baseball. I'm currently wearing the hoodie. Go check out that
merch.
I'll be writing a little bit about Roki. I'm still editing and writing the newsletter over there. If you want the latest updates on everything in free agency and the off season, go check that out. And that's it, man. Hopefully the good vibes return. I'm in need for some good vibes. At the moment, I'm just looking forward to Superman. That's it. Like, I need a little bit more to look forward to. So beat the Chiefs. That would be great. Bills, please beat Kansas City. That will literally make my year. Dodgers, you can sign Pete Alonso if the Chiefs lose. I won't care. I'll just be like, as long as that team loses, that's my true enemy. Mask off. That's like my number one enemy right now. That'd be great.
Went to the movies the other day. Saw the 30th anniversary of Seven. Good ending, but the rest of the movie though, it's a little slow.
Wow, you're all in on like one of the darkest movie endings ever made.
like the ending is great, but the rest of the movie, like you're really just waiting for the ending. I feel like there's really not a lot going on in the rest of the movie. I feel like
I got spoiled on the ending of that movie from a Bill Simmons column.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't know how it. Like I knew what's in the box was something from Seven, but like I never knew I just never knew it. And I was like, oh. Dang, like I was like, all right. I mean, I'm a Fincher head. I love Fincher. Shout out Social Network, one of my favorite movies ever. That's a funny movie to go to the 30th anniversary of.
Yeah, because everyone I actually didn't know what the ending was. I just knew what in the box. I was like, I'm ready. I know this is one of the biggest twists, and like the twist at the end was good.
Yeah.
But the movie leading up to it, I was like, this kind of slow. Like it was made in the 90s, so
I mean,
it's just like more drawn out, like certain scenes and stuff. It wasn't just
it's a movie about 7 deadly sins, like just. It's just a movie about the worst of humanity. I think that's the way to view it. Like it's pretty rough. Favorite part about that movie though, that's a harp on too long. They do not give a name for the place of where they are in that movie. I don't believe. Like they don't say LA. They don't give it a place. That's intentional. It's just supposed to mean they're in heck, right? Like they're in a hellscape, whatever it is, your definition, but they are in the worst. And that could be anywhere really. And I think that's the point.
That's it for this edition of Locked On Movies. Please come back. Locked On Diamondbacks, Locked On Padres crossover. Please check us out wherever you stream podcasting platforms. Please check out Locked On Diamondbacks, Locked On Padres on YouTube. And until next time, until another crossover, I'm Miller Thomas. That's Javier Reyes. Deuces.